6 murders. That's what the government said this man ordered from behind a keyboard. 6 people, marked for death, paid for in Bitcoin. Except not a single one of them died. And here's the part nobody tells you. The first hitman he hired was a federal agent. The whole thing was staged, so the real question isn't whether he ordered those killings. The question is who was actually running the con. Because the men who took him down weren't clean cops. They were robbing him blind the entire time. And he never knew. Let's go back to 2011. A young idealist sits at a laptop. Eagle Scout, physics degree. Quiet, polite. The kind of guy neighbors describe as gentle. His name is Ross Ulbricht, and he has an idea that will change crime forever. A website. You reach it through a hidden browser called Tor. You pay in a currency the government can't trace, Bitcoin, back when almost nobody had heard of it. And you can buy almost anything. He calls it Silk Road. At first it's small, then it explodes. Over the next 2 years, Silk Road moves more than $214 million in illegal goods. Drugs mostly. Heroin, cocaine, LSD. All shipped in the mail, like a package from any online store. It even had reviews, star ratings, customer service. A buyer could rate their heroin dealer like a seller on eBay. To his followers, Ulbricht isn't a criminal. He's a revolutionary, a libertarian building a free market beyond the reach of any government. But to understand Ross, you have to understand what he believed. He wasn't just chasing money. He was a true believer. He thought people had the right to put anything they wanted into their own bodies, and that no government should stop them. In his own private journal, he wrote that he wanted to change the world. He genuinely saw Silk Road as a mission. That belief is what makes everything that comes next so hard to explain. Because running a criminal empire has a problem. People know your secrets, employees, insiders, anyone who could talk. And the bigger Silk Road grows, the more people can bring it all down with a single word to the police. And that is where the story turns dark. Ulbricht hides behind a name, Dread Pirate Roberts. It's taken from a movie, a character where the identity is passed from person to person, so no one is ever really sure who's behind the mask. That's the point. A ghost. A boss no one has ever seen. And when someone threatens the empire, Dread Pirate Roberts allegedly makes a decision. Make the threat disappear. The government would later claim he solicited 6 murders. Remember that number, 6, because not one of them was real. Here's how the first one went. A Silk Road employee had been arrested, and Ulbricht became convinced this insider was now a threat, someone who could hand the whole operation to the police. So Dread Pirate Roberts reached out to a dealer he trusted to handle it. A man he believed was a hardened criminal. He paid $80,000 in Bitcoin, and days later he received proof, photos of the job done. Except the hitman wasn't a hitman. He was an undercover federal agent. The target was never in danger. The photos were staged, faked by the government. The whole murder was a piece of theater, and Ulbricht never knew. He believed he had just had a man killed. He paid for it. In his mind, he was now a murderer. Now hold on to that because it gets stranger. There were 5 more alleged murders, all of them arranged through a Silk Road vendor, known only as Reed and White. Ulbricht believed he was paying a professional killer hundreds of thousands of dollars in Bitcoin. Court records later put the figure around $650,000 for all the killings combined. And here's the detail almost everyone skips. Law enforcement never found any evidence those people existed, let alone died. No bodies, no victims, no missing persons, no proof of anything at all, which raises a chilling possibility. Was Ross Ulbricht ordering real assassinations? Or was a scammer on the other side of the screen taking his money and inventing corpses to keep the payments coming? Think about that. He may have paid over $500,000 to have people killed who were never real, sending fake death photos to a man desperate to believe them. To this day, nobody can say for certain what actually happened. For 2 years, the FBI can't touch him. Dread Pirate Roberts is a ghost. No name, no face, no location. They know Silk Road exists. They just can't find the one man running it. And then, a mistake. Not a wiretap, not a raid. A single forgotten post. Investigators dig through the early internet and find one of the very first messages ever advertising Silk Road. It was signed with an email address, a personal one. Trace that address, and it leads to a name, Ross Ulbricht. The ghost had a real identity all along, buried in a forgotten post from years earlier. In October 2013, it ends. But the FBI has a problem. If they arrest him and his laptop is locked, all the evidence, everything, could be encrypted forever. They need him logged in, so they set a trap. In a public library in San Francisco, two agents stage a loud argument, a fake lover's quarrel right behind him. He turns to look, and in that split second, another agent grabs the open laptop before he can close it. On the screen is Silk Road, live. With him signed in as the administrator, the ghost finally has a face. In 2015, he's convicted and sentenced to life in prison plus 40 years. No parole. For a non-violent first offender, it's one of the harshest sentences of its kind, and the murder charges everyone remembers. He was never convicted of a single one. The one set of murder-for-hire charges filed against him, in Maryland, was quietly dismissed. The jury that sent him away for life never heard a word about it. And that brings us to the part the trial buried, because the investigation that took him down was rotten from the inside. Two of the federal agents chasing Silk Road were stealing from it the entire time. The first, a DEA agent named Carl Force. He went undercover as a drug dealer to get close to Ulbricht. Then he used that access to shake him down, convincing Ulbricht to pay him $50,000 in Bitcoin for fake information, and quietly funneling it into his own account. He even used a second secret identity to sell information to Ulbricht at the same time. The second, a Secret Service agent named Sean Bridges. He stole around $350,000 in Bitcoin from Silk Road accounts. By the time it was traced, it was worth over $800,000. Both men were federal agents. Both were convicted. Both went to prison. And here is the twist that should stop you cold. The jury that convicted Ross Ulbricht was never allowed to know any of it. The corruption only came out after the trial was over. The men who built the case against him were criminals themselves, robbing the very empire they were sworn to destroy. So sit with what actually happened here. A man built an empire on the promise of escaping corrupt authority, and he was brought down by corrupt authority, by the very agents sworn to stop him, who were robbing him at the same time. Then in January 2025, after more than a decade behind bars, Ross Ulbricht walked out. A full and unconditional presidential pardon. The empire, the murders that may never have been real, the crooked cops, the life sentence, erased with a single signature. But that last question still hangs in the air. 6 murders were ordered. 0 people died. So was Ross Ulbricht a would-be killer who simply got scammed by everyone around him? Or did the truth walk out of that prison right along with him? You decide. And if this is the kind of story you can't stop thinking about, stay with us. Because the next one is even harder to believe.